Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dominion. I'm Kale, and if this is your first time watching, I create educational videos on the world of Hero Wars Mobile. This video is part 2 of 3 of my Guild Leader section in my Beginner's Guide to Hero Wars Mobile. If you have not watched part 1, I would suggest you go ahead and do that. I'll put the link to the video in the description below. In this video, we're going to talk about how to plan Guild Wars. So that will include setting up defense and assigning attacks. So let's just get right into it. Before we get started with the defense setup section, I'm just going to explain what Guild Wars are for those who may still be a little confused. So there's one Guild War every single weekday. In the Guild War, your guild will go up against another team, another guild on your server. You will assign 15 different champions and use their hero and titan teams in a defense map that the other enemy team will then attack and try to get points from. You will try to attack their defense team and get points from them also. The most points wins. At the end of the week, if you have enough points to be high enough up on the leaderboard, you may have a relegation battle on Saturday. If you win the relegation battle, you can move up to the next highest league. There are 4 leagues. You have qualifying, bronze, silver, and gold being the highest. In Gold League, you'll be assigning 20 champions, and each champion will have a sort of group of 3 hero teams, and that's what you'll be placing on defense instead of just the 1 hero team. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go on to defense setup. Now there are 10 steps to setting up your defense, and this is just a very basic explanation, a very basic diagram of how you should be setting up your defense. In the next section, we will talk about tweaking your defense depending on what situation you are in. But this can be used generally for the day-to-day Guild War battles. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and clear the board. That means just unassign all of your champions of the guild, and if you haven't assigned any champions of the guild, then you can go directly on to step 2. Now that you have a completely empty board, let's go over the different fortifications you have here. Now the front 3 fortifications, Mage Academy, Barracks, and Lighthouse, you can place 2 hero teams in. Now you'll get a capture bonus for defeating these, 40 points for each one, and then you also get 40 points combined for defeating both hero teams. That means each of these fortifications is good for 80 points each. Now adding these all together, this will equal the same amount of points you can get from attacking the Citadel. For attacking the Citadel, you'll get 120 points combined for defeating all of the hero teams, and then a 120 points capture bonus. The Bridge, Foundry, Spring of Elements, Bastion of Ice, Bastion of Fire, and Gates of Nature all yield in total 120 points for capture. That's 60 points from defeating all 3 teams, and another 60 points capture bonus. You may notice that the front 3 fortifications, the Foundry and the Citadel, have square boxes on them, while the Bastion, Gates, Bastion, and Spring, and Bridge all have rectangular boxes. The Bridge, Bastion of Ice, Bastion of Fire, Gates of Nature, and Spring of Elements are all Titan fortifications. That means you'll be placing Titan teams to defend these. All of the other fortifications are hero fortifications, which means you're going to be placing hero teams to defend these. When assigning champions of the guild, you want to make sure that you have an even spread of strong titans and strong heroes. That means if you have a lot of strong hero teams, but some of those players with those strong hero teams have really weak titan teams, you may want to think about assigning some slightly weaker hero teams in favor of some stronger titan teams if you have players like that in your guild. Now that you have got all 15 of your champions of the guild assigned, we can go ahead and start putting them into the fortifications. You want to start at the Bridge. In the Bridge, you just want to put your top 3 strongest titan teams in. The reason you want to do this is because basically the enemy team will have to take the Bridge if they want to be able to attack more than half of the entire defense map. So that's always going to be attacked no matter what. So you want to have as much defense there as possible to A, either stop them from getting through, or B, just take as many of their attacks away as possible. I forgot to mention that each champion of the guild only gets 2 chances to attack during the guild war. This limits each guild's amount of attacks to 30. So if you want to pull off a perfect score, which is 1200 points, you need to make sure that you get no fails at all. That means every single team you attack has to be defeated in one try. Now that we've assigned bridge, we go on to the bastions of fire, ice, and nature. So what you want to do with this is sort of shuffle your next top 9 titans amongst these. So you want to go in a pattern of first goes in fire, second goes in gates, third goes in ice, fourth goes in ice, fifth goes in gates, sixth goes in fire, seventh goes in fire, and so on and so forth, until you have all of these fortifications filled. The reason you want to assign the gates, fire, and ice this way is because it will give those 3 fortifications an even spread of Titan power, and you want these to be nearly equal to each other so that one out of the 3 isn't attacked more than the others in order for the enemy team to get to the Citadel. The Citadel, being the one biggest fortification, also yields the most points for just that one building. So they're going to try to take that pretty much 90% of the time, unless you have some really big heroes in there to sort of deter them from trying to attack there. Next, we assign Spring of Elements. You can either A, put your last 3 Titan teams in here, or B, you can actually reshuffle and do Bastion, Nature, Ice, Spring. This will make your 3 Bastions a little weaker, but it will also protect your Spring of Elements from getting attacked as easily. However, enemies attacking the Spring of Elements might actually work in your favor. You can sort of use the Spring as free candy so that the enemy wastes their attacks doing that instead of attacking any main important fortifications. Now we move on to the hero fortifications. The first thing you want to do is go to Citadel and put your top 2 strongest hero teams in here. This will protect your Citadel from getting taken easily, and it may also deter the enemy from attacking your Citadel in the first place. Then we will go to the Foundry and put your 3rd strongest hero team in there. The reason for this is you could make your Foundry free candy, but honestly, getting a strong hero team is a lot easier than getting a strong Titan team, so the chances that you have as many weak hero teams than Titan teams is a lot smaller. So you really just want to make all of your hero fortifications really hard to get. Then we're going to do the shuffling thing with the Lighthouse, Barracks, and Mage Academy. When you do this shuffle method, you want to go back through and double check the teams to make sure they're not super far apart from each other in hero power, because that may actually entice the enemy to attack that fortification, and it may also make that fortification weaker. Now you want to put your next 2 strongest into the Citadel. This will provide a little extra layer of protection. Then you want to put your next 2 strongest in Foundry, and your last 2 into Citadel. And there you go. Now you've got your defense all set up. Now there are a few different ways you can tweak this depending on what kind of a situation you're in. If you know that you're going into relegation battles and you see all of the teams that you could be fighting against are really strong, then you might not want to do an even spread on anything. You should probably focus on making bridge really strong, the gates, bastions really strong, and the Citadel really strong, because most enemy teams tend to go bridge, bastion, Citadel, or they'll evaluate Citadel, and if it's not really possible that it gets attacked, they will try to take all 3 bastions, the spring, and the front 3 fortifications. Now let's talk about assigning attacks. Sadly, I don't have any video to show you guys anything because the next war I have is coming up at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I don't feel like staying up for that. But I can go over a few basic pointers to sort of help you understand how assigning attacks works. The first thing you want to do is take down the bridge. That's because that will open the other half of the board. Then you want to evaluate Citadel. Before you even attack the bastions, evaluate Citadel. See if that is worth taking and if you can take it. If not, then work with your team to first see if Spring of Elements is weak. If Spring of Elements is weak, then go ahead and attack that. Then look at the bastions. and look at the main 3 fortifications. Once again, taking the main 3 fortifications yields as many points as taking the Citadel. In the end, it's all about getting as many points as possible, so shoot for as many buildings as you can to get taken down for those extra fortification capture bonuses. Now let's talk about matching up teams. There's a difference between assigning attacks and matching teams. Matching teams is basically evaluating the enemy team versus the team that you're going to assign, looking at any anti-teams, any weaknesses of your team versus the enemy's team, and then thinking, is this a good team matchup? If it's not, then you might think about assigning someone else. This is a big thing that you need to work on as a guild master, because you're sort of expected to lead the guild wars, especially in higher up guilds, top bronze and upward. The guild leader usually, almost always, assigns attacks, and that means you have to know how to match up teams. So obviously you need to know the weaknesses of your champions' teams, and one easy way to do that is to ask each of your champions to post their teams in the training tab, and also list any strengths and weaknesses that the champion knows of for their team. Then you can go ahead and bash them in the training tab if you're strong enough, or have someone else bash them until you find as many weaknesses as you can. Then put those in a Word document or something, remember those, so when you're going to assign attacks, you know what that team is weak against, and that will help you in the long run. Another way to make sure that you're not getting a lot of fails is if you see a team, an enemy team, and you think that that might be hard for pretty much everyone, or maybe just a couple people, then go ahead and get one of your teammates who has strong enough heroes to mirror that team and put that in the training tab. Then you can sort of have a practice run against that enemy's team in order to figure out what might be the best strategy to defeat it. Then you want to be aware of some main anti-teams. I think the main 3 are Andvari versus Kark. Andvari was created specifically to counter Kark, so definitely don't put a Kark up against an Andvari. Then Satori versus Jorgen. One of Satori's skills puts a Foxfire mark on anybody who actively gains energy, and Jorgen actively gains energy. And then when Satori blasts his main skill, that's just going to immediately kill Jorgen. And then Jorgen versus Galahad, or Jorgen versus any main damage dealers on the front line. Because of Jorgen's main skill, he can stop the enemy team from gaining energy, and that will stop Galahad or any other main damage dealer on the front line from gaining energy in order to release their main skill, their main damaging skill. Galahad most of all is affected by this because his main damaging skill is the one that he needs energy for, and he also doesn't have a lot of other secondary damaging skills. And finally, you want to be aware of the Blender team, which contains a core of Jet, Kira, and Sebastian. Now, I believe it was patched, but it is still very dangerous. So when you come across this team in a guild war, you want to make sure that you are very cautious around it. Now, the reason I know it's still dangerous is because I was in a guild war not too long ago, and there was a Blender team, and it was about 160,000 hero power. I thought, no problem. So I put a 240,000 hero power guy against it, and my guy lost. And that's because this Blender team is still, it has a lot of synergy in it. It deals a lot of damage due to Kiera and Sebastian working together and all that. And it is very, very volatile still, so you need to be careful around that. Now, as you progress through the game and as you progress through guild wars and leading a guild, you will gain more insight on how to assign and how to set up defense depending on how your champion's teams work. So I think the main lesson you should learn here is to pay attention to your champion's teams, because overall that's what's going to lead you to victory. And there you have it. That's everything. That was part 2 out of 3. Part 3 is coming out on Sunday. That's just going to be a little tutorial on how to create a Discord chat for your guild. I'll be doing it on desktop and mobile so everybody feels included. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and drop a like down below, and if you like my content in general, go ahead and subscribe, and until next time, keep on dominating.